So, I want to talk today about the hero as related to real life soldiers because they are the hero archetype. Welcome to Real Life and Archetypes. My name is Marina. This is my first live, so this is going to be an experiment. But I just wanted to share my thoughts because I've been watching a lot of interviews. I love just watching, hearing about everybody's experiences. And I'm just going to give you a few names of the kind of people that I'm going to be referring to. So these would be people like Rob O'Neill, Marcus Luttrell, Sean Ryan. I guess I'm referring to operators, Navy SEALs, and people who've had really very, very extreme experiences. And I want to connect that to the hero archetype, not only because of the obvious connection. These are people who obviously they're going to give their lives, they put their lives on the line. But this is also an illustration of how the hero energy works through us or in us. Because those who have a lot of this energy, and again, we all have all of the archetypes at least a little bit, and then some people will have more than others. And you will definitely see that. So these are people who will have maybe a lot of the Aries archetype in the Zodiac. But you have to think in terms of differently than just the concept of having the sun in a sign. This is what everybody focuses on because it's very easy to know that your sun sign is in, a sign or another. But actually, the birth chart has way more information and a lot of energies. And we all have the Aries energy somewhere. So this is what I call the hero archetype. And people like these operators, these Navy SEALs who've experienced combat and missions that are very extreme, you're going to see a lot of stuff there. They have experiences of heightened sense of feeling alive. That's why so many of them, they miss the action, even though they're also, they have to deal with great trauma. This is something that may feel very confusing to people because you're like, well, can you deal with that or can you not deal with that, or what is going on? And why would you like to experience that again? But at the same time, you're wounded, you're hurt. Well, this is what this very masculine energy is all about. It's about pushing yourself and testing yourself. The hero, what it really wants is for you to have the greatest experience ever. It's about fulfillment of your potential, but it's about feeling alive. And what happens with these operators is that they have that experience. And when you are in those moments, I can only try to imagine because obviously I haven't had this experience, but it is an experience where you feel this incredible sense of being alive, of pushing yourself to the limit. And there's another very common thing in these kinds of people. They experience incredible bonding with their brothers, with their fellow teammates, because these are incredible experiences. What happens there is that this is another archetype that is activated in, the sharing this bond. That's the personal self archetype. This is the Cancer archetype, the family archetype. Because when we share moments that are going to have a huge impact on our personal development, and we share this growing up, it's a very emotional stuff. The concept of emotions, what really bothers me is that emotions get a very bad rap in the real world. But we have to think beyond the concept of, weakness and weeping and crying and all that. That's a low expression of that archetype where we're going to feel things and remain stuck there. And so we don't grow. Now, think of the family, how the family is supposed to take somebody small and provide the conditions, the right conditions, hopefully, which never really happens. But anyway, the right conditions for you to grow and to develop. So this is all about personal development. And the word personal is keyword here. Now, what happens in the family archetype, the personal self, is that the family, your biography, is just supposed to give you a head start. They're not there to shape you completely. Nobody should do that for you, by the way, because that's the mission of the hero is, to just do that. There's a part of you that needs to be hyper individual, hyper self-reliant, to really push yourself so that you are going to define exactly what it is that you want from your own experience, from your own existence. And that is the challenge. From that archetype, what we need to think about is, what is it that I want to do with myself? What is it that I want to do with my life? And those experiences where you push yourself, you're really going to grow in terms of your capabilities, and that's going to open the mind to generate new ideas and new desires about things that you want to do. All of that in this process is going to bring you closer to this concept of doing what you truly love. It's about this pure motivation. So you can see that energy and force in some people who are very competitive, and they're going to use their bodies, their mind to do things that are very forceful. It's about the projection of your energy. Now you can see what the problem is. Because this is a lot of energy, it represents the totality of our energies projected onto the world. The collateral damage is issues with the world and relationships, conflict, seeing the world as an enemy and things like that. But the hero archetype needs a challenge, needs life to be challenging, because that's how you're going to feel really alive. And that's what this archetype wants from you. And it wants you to find something that is related to being active that you truly love. And that's going to fill you with those energies so that you can address all of the challenges that come from really wanting to do something that relates to what you really feel you want to do. And what you have against you from the perspective of this archetype, so you feel it when it's going to be triggered in your life, and you can feel it in terms of anger or hypermotivation or despondency, that you don't have anything that motivates you. That's when you really feel that archetype. But you have all of those energies because you actually have desire. Sometimes, most of the time, we're not aware of what our agenda is. This is such a seminal archetype. It's such a fundamental archetype that I always go back to the hero, because it's like going back to basics. We need to really define what our motivations are, what are the things that animate us, so that we can become the person that we're really meant to be. If we don't respond to that, one of the issues that we have is that we're just going to go through the motions of life and basically just react. And we will have maybe stages of life where nothing happens, and then we're going to feel a lot of anger or frustration or something. This is our cue and our call that we need to respond to, that call of the hero. We need to evolve and grow and go towards that potential. Or frustration is going to increase in ways that can be devastating, because whatever conflict, and it's really about an inner conflict that we project onto the world with conflicts that we generate just because we need this energy to be projected. It needs to come out. So the best representation of this archetype is obviously soldiers, people who go to war. That's the warrior archetype. That's what this is about. So what I see in these soldiers very often is that, you have this incredible experience, and they share a bond of brotherhood, and this is where the emotional world is activated. What happens is that it creates an imprint, an image of something that you experience that really feels, actually very special. You share, even if it's negative experiences, It's something that you share and you have a bond with other human beings. It creates a closeness with other human beings. This is important in terms of isolation, because when we are not part of a human system, which the family is supposed to provide first and foremost, if we don't have a human system, it's going to be very difficult for us to really grow and develop. We need a human system, and we create those memories at certain points. So the family is supposed to help you grow, okay? Something in your childhood starts to develop. You will see that in the chart. Something begins to develop. But again, we go back to the sense that the world has a plan for us, okay? And sometimes we are not aware that the hero is telling us, hey, first and foremost, you need to define what it is that you want to do. But most of the time we don't do that, right? So the world wants us to become a certain person, and the family, relationships, the society wants us to whatever. In the family, usually in the best case scenario, you know, we're going to have experiences where we maybe were able to do something that made us happy. Or if we had negative experiences, we will be used to, because of those memory, to really maybe fight against something. And then the development that we have is going to have another kind of nature. But the thing is that you share, there's an emotional stuff. Emotions is about growing up. Emotion is about being personal. When you personalize your experience, that's when you're going to make life experience just about you. It's going to become more special. It is necessary. Now, we can remain stuck, and that's why we have to address childhood stuff, and we pay a lot of money for therapy, because we're not allowed to have an emotional world and we don't understand what is going on. But something started to grow when we were younger. And at different points and different stages in life, we're going to encounter or we're going to be in situations where we're going to feel a lot of emotions. So actually, we shouldn't repress them. But if we do, there's another archetype that's going to address that. We shouldn't repress or even suppress them, okay? We're supposed to deal with our emotions because, and even if it's painful, and it usually is, it's growing pains, we're going to personalize our experiences, and that's very important to be creative. We cannot be creative, authentic, and all of that stuff, or special, if we don't personalize our experience. It's not possible, because what you're going to do is emulate the greatness of others, and there's no authenticity there. There's another archetype that takes care of that, okay? The archetypes, they're going to refer to all kinds of stuff that we experience universally. So these operators, this is people who are in the Navy SEALs and things like that, they're called operators. They share that emotional bond. But that bond is created in those situations. So even when they leave the conditions, keyword, the conditions of war, you would think that just by having relationships with their brothers in arms, they would be able to feel that bond again. But it's not really possible because they're not in the same conditions. And that's where a lot of them have a lot of issues, because, you know, they sort of seek to replicate this sense of being alive and having an amazing experience that also created this incredible bond with other people. And sometimes they will gather and tell the stories, but what they've experienced is so unique that it's difficult to replicate unless, you know, maybe you go back, and some of them, they try to put themselves in another situation where they're going to feel a great sense of motivation, a cause, something that makes them feel like the heroes that they want to be. So being a hero is not just for these kinds of people. It's an energy that we all have. It's important to understand that, because, oh my God, it's going to come out of us in ways that we may not know. And that's going to be very, very forceful. You can have a lot of energy, for example, working, and you're going to be a very, very intense worker, somebody super busy, but you're not doing what you love. What happens then? You're going to be stressed. You're going to have to deal with illnesses, the body, mind, spirit, the holistic aspect in your life. You know, you're going to have to learn about those things. But what you're really looking for is to be busy, to be occupied in a way that is more fulfilling than what you're doing. So you can be very forceful with your mind, with your body, with relationships, things like that, just because the energy of the hero is right there. It's trying to find fulfillment in those situations, okay? It can be because of your beliefs. Maybe that energy is in your beliefs. You're trying to make sense of the world, to create, because we all need that, a theory of everything, an explanation of why things exist, why you exist. So maybe that energy is going to be projected onto that. Maybe you want to help the world, and that energy is going to come out very forcefully like that. It's going to generate a lot of frustration when it's not fulfilled. Okay, so that's where you can recognize it. So these people, what is incredible is that they also, you will hear also stories from these kinds of people that they can be the heroes that they are. The same person can be something positive, but also negative, because these are the things that we decide from this archetype. Then there's another, which is the Scorpio archetype, which is the one that is going to immerse us and our focus into everything that is negative in the world, because we need to make that decision at any given moment of how we're going to use our power and our energies, if it's going to be positive or negative. And let me tell you, we look for very extreme examples so that we pat ourselves in the back and say, well, I'm not that kind of awful person, so I don't have to deal with that stuff. Well, actually we do, because everything that is dark is inherently part of the human experience. We all have it. It's just that, we don't all go to the same extremes. There's a spectrum, obviously. But to use who you are in a negative way and hurting others or being manipulative is something that is part of all of us. So looking at, the enemy, that's the enemy archetype, the Scorpio, the shadow archetype, I call it, actually. It's about dealing with our shadow, is also part of it. So these people, those heroes, they can be positive or negative. You can have somebody giving their lives and giving all of their energies, putting their lives on the line, and then they may come back home and be super violent with their partner. It happens, okay? Or they're going in conflict with others, but this is even uglier, the person who saves a life and then comes back home and beats his wife. I just want you to see those extremes so that you can understand that these are energies that can operate within each of us. We can have these extremes to be good and then to be bad. And that this archetype is addressing this question. We need to think about those things. What kind of person am I? And what kind of person do I really want to be? Because we're going to make that choice. And temptation to go into the dark side is part of the human experience. But some people, they reject that in themselves, and they're just going to be focused on the enemy. It's always other people are bad. They don't see what they have inside, okay? So this is a very complex archetype that I will go into at another time. But what I wanted to emphasize today was about, these soldiers that I find so interesting, how they really long to experience that kind of bond. They talk about this all the time, the brotherhood. I mean, sharing those experiences, the feeling that another person can understand who you are and really accept who you are is very, very important to all of us. And then for those who have a lot more of that energy, even more. You have to know that the birth chart is different for everybody. But even if you have similar birth charts, wherever you come from, the chart doesn't say that. It just gives you the universal archetype. So it's going to be different. Just think about in a family, you can have different siblings and everyone is different and everyone is having a different experience, okay? So in a chart, we have all kinds of energies there. And that's why I always speak about the sun sign, that everybody's so stuck into the sun sign, because you can find out what it is just by knowing your date of birth. It's very easy. But that doesn't tell you much. It really doesn't, okay? But think about the energies as, having the possibility to express different facets of who you are, and also being challenged to grow, to learn new things. When you go to a wedding, you dress up in a way and you behave in a way maybe, and then you go back home and you put on your sweaters and you want to be comfortable. That's very much of this archetype, to be comfortable, to be yourself, to relax. If you're going to meet the president, you're going to have, you're going to try to be in your best behavior and dress up and this and that. So we do that all the time. We have different kinds of behaviors and we're going to use our archetypes. So that's why we need to sort of let go of this concept of the sun sign. I'm a Pisces, I'm a Leo, I'm a Capricorn, I'm this and that. And so that determines the whole story of my life. I don't see things that way at all. And in fact, I think, and that's why I stay away from astrology. I don't do astrology because for me, it has limitations. There's a great branch of astrology, evolutionary astrology and all that stuff, which is very interesting. But I think it confuses a lot of people. And it is confusing because it tells you a lot of things and you're like, how is that related to that? Well, you're going to have different kinds of experiences, different mindsets for each experience, and you may not know why you behave a way or you think in a way, you react in a way, why it hurts here, why this is easy, why you like this but not that. So that's what archetypes will tell you. They will show you where they operate in the birth chart and how you can understand how they manifest in your own life and then make better decisions. That's what this is all about. So you're going to see in a chart, there's so much going on that you're going to feel energies that are very forceful, right? So that's the hero archetype. You can recognize that. The emotional world, this family archetype, the personal self that needs to develop, is a super important one. So rejecting emotions is not a good strategy. And in fact, closeness with other human beings is necessary in order for you to have a greater experience in the world. Because if you just remain from the point of view of the hero, for example, that's also a bad thing. I mean, to just say, well, I just want to accomplish my stuff. I have my own agenda. I'm a loner. You hear that a lot. I'm a loner. Well, you may be a loner and maybe that's fine. You want to experience that, but your experience is limited because, and maybe some people will have so much of that energy, especially if we have a lot of a certain energy, and some people have that. I have like all kinds of energy. So that's why I have such variety of archetypes and experiences. Some people have more concentration, so they will need certain, very specific experiences to develop a lot of, many facets of their personality or the challenges that they need to deal with. But you still have to think in terms of, it's not just one thing. If you want to limit yourself, you're going to have a limited experience. That's going to increase the frustration of the hero, by the way. Because the hero, at some point, especially as we get older, there's another archetype that takes over there. The part of you that gets older is going to want to be expressed in some ways as well, which is somebody who's getting more mature and knows more about life. And so this is about restitution of your experience. So So again, we need to think in terms of evolution, that things are going to be always moving. And if we don't evolve, we'll just repeat things. And it's going to hurt again. And then we find ourselves telling our stories like, this thing always happens to me. And I always get bad partners and I always get bad bosses. And I always, well, yeah, because you're not evolving, you're not going up. You're just repeating and repeating and repeating. And we need to respond to the call of always growing and evolving. That's always a challenge, but the hero wants to have fun with that. So anyway, so just going back to our soldiers, which is, a subject that I love to really dig deep in. I was just watching, the Sean Ryan show, which is really interesting what he's done with his channel. And I remember that I was watching Sean Ryan years ago. So when I saw that he was so successful, I thought, well, this guy looks very familiar because he's very distinctive physically. And I thought, well, I remember watching videos. That was back when Mark Luttrell and Rob O'Neill, they would do some videos. Nobody was watching those videos back then. And I remember Sean Ryan talking about his issues and his struggles. And it was very interesting because this guy is really, has really learned to express himself in a way that is really helping a lot of people. It's very interesting. So everybody has an interesting experience. Every human being has something to contribute. And that's what this is all about. So I'm just going to end this here. And thank you so much for watching. Yes. So I'll see you soon in the next video.